What's up, everybody? This is Craig from 9V Games, and today I'm going to be switching up a little bit. There's nothing I really wanted to review today, and we had originally had a video planned, but it kind of fell through. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start putting our top 5s in video form. However, I have to go back through and do our other top 5s in video format because for some reason on the featured page, they're gone. I have no idea why. Must have been when I transferred over to the new look of the site and redid everything. Either way, all I know is that I still have the pages on my computer, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read them off and give you a little explanation of why they're in the top 5. Now, the first top 5 I want to do is the top 5 most wanted crossover fighting games. Now, crossover fighting games are huge. They're huge. If you take into consideration Marvel vs. Capcom, was explosive. It's a giant game. Super Smash Brothers is a crossover fighting game because it's a crossover franchise into a fighting game. So by definition, it is actually the most successful crossover fighting game. And I believe in double-digit millions too. I believe it was at 13 the last time, but I'm not 100% on that. I remember when it reached a landmark of 9 million, which automatically makes it the best-selling fighting game if you consider it a fighting game of all time. Which was Brawl, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. King of Fighters is actually a crossover game of Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury, which has now spawned off into being its own actual fighting game. So technically, no longer you can consider it to be a crossover game, but at heart, it is a crossover game. And some crossovers don't work, but they still somehow got popular. Mortal Kombat vs. DC. I love Mortal Kombat. Did not like that game because it sucked. It sucked pretty bad. But it's all right. It made an attempt, and it just took away. But I'm going to touch back on that later because there's something about that on this list that I'll talk about later. All right, so crossover fighting games. Now, this list is comprised of what I would like to see. I know there's someone here that Dan would love to see because I've heard him name drop it. That's why I included a couple. And it's just our personal views, mainly my personal views. So don't look at this and be like, nobody wants that, because I don't care what you're going to say back if you're going to say something rude. I'll delete you. Anyways, so getting right into it. Number 5. Some people, you're probably going to have weird looks and scratching your head. Number 5 is Killer Instinct versus Clay Fighter. Now, hear me out, all right? When the two games came out back in the day, they were pretty much a clone of another game. All right, Killer Instinct was basically a clone of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat mashed together. You had the violence, you had the crazy, like, fast combos, and yada yada. Clay Fighter has won awards for being the best Street Fighter clone when it came out, and it even had tournament editions. So people who look at it and just disregard it as it's got no depth are fucking crazy. The game does have insane amount of depth. But if you mash these two games together, they actually look alike. Kind of. I mean, they both, have that claymation look. Obviously, Clay Fighter is clay. So I think the games would mesh well together. They do have the over-the-top, like, zany animations. Those would go good together. You could get the combos going. It wouldn't really matter who made it either way. The only thing is if Rare ended up making the game, it would not be on any console except for Xbox because Microsoft owns Rare now. Plus, the reason that I included this on the list when I did is because at the time, both of them were rumored to have comebacks coming on the Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network for Clay Fighter. And I just think they would have gone good together. I think it's mainly because you kind of went one way or the other when it came out. Everybody played Killer Instinct. I mean, that was one of the first games I got excited for to play in an arcade. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a Super Nintendo at the time. But I was a fanatic for Clay Fighter. But I was just thinking of the matchups. Some of the matchups are great. You got your Ichabod Clay on the Clay Fighter side versus Spinal. You got your Glacius versus Bad Mr. Frosty. Like they got some pretty good matchups. But I definitely think that that game wouldn't be successful nowadays. But it is something that at the time I wanted to see. But I could talk all day about that. We're going to skip right to the next one. What did I even have as number 4? It's on ridiculous. Oh, here we go. How about Dragon Ball versus Street Fighter? Now, no one will admit this, but someone may or may not have ripped somebody else off in this whole deal. Dragon Ball is older, and you're not going to tell me that the Hadouken did not come from the Kamehameha. Come on. Come on. They all even wear the same like gis. They're just inverted in colors. The matchups are already there. I remember one time I was in high school. This game was already rumored to be being made by Capcom. Was Capcom versus, or Street Fighter versus Dragon Ball, or Capcom versus Dragon Ball. Might have been Capcom. Regardless, the matchups are there. You got your Ryu and your Goku, and you got Ken, and you could have Yamcha. You could have any of them. I mean, you could. The matchups could be insane. You could kind of have like Tien versus Sagat. I mean, that would work at some level. You kind of have your what else you got? Your Dulcim. Dulcim versus any of the Nameks. I mean, you could have Nail. Obviously, you'd have Piccolo in the game, but I honestly think the game. This is why I was like stuttering. I couldn't think of his name for some reason. Ken versus Krillin. Obviously, the size difference is there, but Ken versus Krillin. Like, you got the same setup of style of characters. You're going for a world tournament, which is usually how a Dragon Ball Z ended in a world tournament. It's just there. You could totally do the story. You totally could do it. Don't tell me that Seth didn't come from Cell. You know what? I'm gonna get way too amped about this. Seth and Cell are the same goddamn person. That's it. All right, moving along. Right to the next one. Number 3. I think this one actually would work pretty well. Final Fantasy versus Soulcalibur. Hear me out. Soulcalibur has had some weird fucking people in their games, okay? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you clearly didn't play Soulcalibur 4, because having the Jedis in there was goddamn weird. Now, granted, the Apprentice was very badass, but Yoda and Darth Vader, if you're a Soulcalibur 4 player, you know both those characters suck both your balls, if you're a dude. Or one of the other dudes. Anyways, that game is great. I love Soulcalibur. And the characters, I appreciate the fact that they are reaching out and they're trying to get third-party characters into games. That's awesome to me. They're making a great effort. I just think that they could pick better characters, and I think you guys can agree with me on that. Now, on the other end, Final Fantasy had Dissidia, which was not that great of a fighting game. I don't care if you can get mad at me or whatever. You're a friggin' liar if you think that was a fantastic fighting game. Yeah, that's what I thought. That game wasn't that good, okay? Don't get over yourself. I played the game. I was so excited. I may or may not have bootlegged that game from Japan just to play it. That's how excited I was, and goddamn it was I disappointed. Okay? So it needs a proper fighting game. Now, Soulcalibur is going down the road to becoming a crossover franchise, which will be great. They had Link in one of their games, for goddamn Christ's sakes. I think that a Final Fantasy realm would do well in there. Come on, Mitsurugi and his long-ass samurai sword versus Sephiroth and his I know you're going to have an argument about who's more badass. Clearly, it's Sephiroth. That's not the point. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that there's characters on both sides that would match up with each other. I think it would. I think that would be an awesome game. But I digress. Let's go on to number 2. Number 2, for some reason, this is a no-brainer to me, and I absolutely love one of these, and I hate the other one. And that is Virtual Fighter versus Tekken. Now, I say Virtual Fighter versus Tekken because they're two of the most technical fighting games, let's be honest. Virtual Fighter obviously is a bit more technical. Actually, sometimes Virtual Fighter can be so technical that it just cancels out the fun in it. But I do love Virtual Fighter, and I hate Tekken. I hate Tekken. And I would love to beat the shit out of some Tekken people with some Virtual Fighter people. But like I said, it's both set in place that they're the technical guys. They're both 3D. They both have 8-way movements. They both have insane string combos. And I think they would do very well against each other. And I actually think the game would be fun because I have a feeling that people like me who really like Virtual Fighter don't really get into Tekken, and vice versa. So I think that would be an awesome way to open the gateway for both fans of franchises to come together and have a good game. Obviously, that's kind of out of the question now. It was really not out of the question when I had originally wrote it because Street Fighter Cross Tekken wasn't announced yet. So, you know, maybe sometime in the future. I have talked to Harada on Twitter, so maybe I'll send this to Harada and then he'll ignore it. All right. And number one. So what's the no-brainer that I have not even said on here yet? Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. If you are my age and you don't want to see a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, why are you watching this? Why did you even make it here in the video unless you're skipping around? That is probably the most requested crossover fighting game of all time. You can't deny that. I would have full confidence in saying, I'm not even going to say it must be. It is the most requested crossover fighting game of all time. Now, once again, when I had wrote this, it was before Ono pretty much said, oh no, there's going to be no Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. That's because he doesn't want to see his precious Street Fighter characters get mutilated. I know what. I respect this guy too much to tell him to F off, but oh no, come on, bro. You're almost retired. Like, do you really care that much if we cut Chun-Li's head off? Seriously, bro. When you are gone, when you're gone, they're going to butcher the shit out of your characters. So why not let Ed Boon's team butcher the shit out of your characters? For real. And on another note here, Capcom could do this correctly and do what they're doing with Tekken and Street Fighter. NetherRealm could make their own version. They could. And basing it off of the Mortal Kombat 9 engine, it would be a pretty goddamn good game. And they could make like the Hadoukens and they can make all that stuff. They can make them trap moves. They can make trap moves for these characters. That would be pretty cool. They could make Shoryukens, teleporting, everything. And NetherRealm could make it in their dark, gritty style with the fatalities and whatnot. And then people who like Mortal Kombat will be happy. Now, the Street Fighter people could take it. Ono could take the game and he could make it into just a regular fighting game on a Capcom engine and make it a Capcom style fighting game and just incorporate Mortal Kombat characters. And you don't need the fatalities. Now I know some people might be like, fatalities is what totally will make or break a Mortal Kombat, and that's not true. That's true for Mortal Kombat versus DC, but that's because the game was made by NetherRealm, or at the time it was just Midway. And it broke the game because that's what they make. They make the extreme violent games, and Mortal Kombat vs. DC was not extremely violent. And it was a good fighting game. On a technical standpoint, it was obviously beaten, but that's not what people will buy a Mortal Kombat from the Mortal Kombat team for. Now, if you put Street Fighter first and you put Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat and you put that Capcom on the bottom of the box, people know what they're buying. Capcom makes fighting games that don't really have a lot of violence in them. People get knocked out. They don't die in Street Fighter. That's just the way it is. So they could make a game without the fatalities, and they could give Mortal Kombat people super moves that, you know, seem a little violent, and they could absolutely get away with it. And then, like I said, NetherRealm could make their version and make it completely violent. They could give the Street Fighter characters, they can give them X-ray moves, which are based off of their super moves, or give them fatalities that are based off their super moves. Who wouldn't want to do a flaming Shoryuken uppercut, take somebody's head off? Come on. I just got so excited saying that I could barely get it out of my mouth. But yeah, Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. We've already had Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter in the arcades. Well, now we just need the actual physical game. Please, guys, I'm sending this to Ed Boon. I'm sending this to Ono. Please. Ono has actually responded to me on Twitter before, a few times, actually. So hopefully he'll probably ignore this video, but he'll say, oh, thanks for the shout out. All right. Ed Boon has not responded to me on Twitter ever, so I don't expect him to respond to this, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be sending it to him like 40,000 times. But yeah. So, Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. Come on, guys. Come on. They're going to... No. Before you two... When you two retire and other people take over your game, they're going to completely kill it. Mortal Kombat just got back on its feet. It is not going to hurt you to go the way of Capcom, because Capcom... Listen, I'm a Mortal Kombat fan, and I'm about to say this. Capcom made it possible for you to get back on your feet. So, You just be shaking them, saying, "Where's my goddamn versus game?" And I know Ed Boon's been actually asking for the versus game, so whatever. I gotta stop. I'm getting way too excited. My heart rate's rising. Thank you guys for watching our top 5.